Happy Monday everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. Right then guys, got a busy week ahead of us, exciting week, got some nice projects on the go out there, but have got a bit of good news. Now, by popular demand or suggestion, I would say, I've noticed over the last few months, viewers either emailing me or putting in the comments, they recommend really we should sort of separate some of the stuff we do, like the track days and the I suppose the playing about. Quite a lot of the E30 stuff people don't appreciate on the main channel. I know when I did that video on my sort of on mental health, etc., I stated the reason I was doing the E30 and putting it on the channel, but having a good think about it, now I've been out in the workshop for about a month. I don't know whether any of you guys agree with me, but I feel that being out in the workshop, getting more involved in the engines as opposed to just sitting in the office answering the phone a lot of the time, I'm finding doing the content for our channel quite a lot easier and more interesting. So although there is still a little bit of drama that you guys love, and I know that you love the clickbaity thumbnail and titles, but yeah, I'm finding it really interesting, really easy, and I'm really enjoying getting in amongst the engines again, to be honest with you. So going by the views in the last few weeks, it seems like you guys seem to appreciate that more. You like the main channel to be sort of educational, etc. I almost forgot to say there, guys, the new channel is called Bareham Engine Stories. There'll be a link down in the description below, so just click on it and head over there. What many of you have suggested is that we maybe start a second channel and put a lot of the stuff that that maybe a lot of guys don't want in the main channel into the second channel. So it's not going to be a sort of regimented time frame that we put videos on like the main channel, but we have set up a second channel, guys. So what we're going to be putting in there, we're going to be putting in the updates on the E30, a lot of the E30 stuff we're going to be putting in there that Mikey's been doing. Obviously things on the kit car, the track days, stuff like that. There's other stuff in the workshop which I always feel that I want to do a video on a lot of stuff, but I know I can't put it in the main channel because it's not really what people wouldn't really be that interested in that watch the main channel, maybe. So yeah, I've set a second channel up, guys. I'm really excited about it. As I say, if I do one video a month or whether I do 3 a week, you know, there's not going to be any set routine. But if you hit that subscribe button, guys, and hit the notification bell, you will be notified whenever we do a video on there. So yeah, let me know down in the comments whether you think it's a good idea. But please, guys, if you would, just get on over there, check it out. I did do a video yesterday, if you haven't watched it already, just sort of going through the same thing really, giving you the format. It's going to be, I'm going to try and do the format as sort of, I'm not going to edit it so much. It's just going to be raw footage of me doing whatever I want to do and putting whatever I want on there. So yeah, have a little look over there, guys. Let me know what you think. It may not be for you. I'm not asking you to watch them religiously if you watch them at all, but as long as you stay on the main channel, I don't mind. But it would really help if you go on over there, subscribe, and yeah, help us out a bit with maybe getting that channel monetized to help us out. So yeah, let me know, guys, what you think, but I'm pretty excited about it. Seems like a fairly good idea. Let me know. Cheers. Right then, guys, so today we're going to get stuck into this Focus RS Mark III. Now, the stage that we're at, we've got the new pistons, the new rods, so Bridgeway rods and JE pistons, as you can see. A lovely, very pretty item. Got the rings here, which we've got a gap. Crank is in, new bearings. So this is a brand new crank, which Isaac has balanced. You can see where he's took material off. Now, in one of the last videos, we showed you how out of balance this was. Wasn't disastrous, to be honest with you. By the time we got the flywheel and the clutch on, we were about sort of getting on, is it 35, 40 out on the machine, which is not great, to be honest. These things are very reliant, because they're aluminium block, very reliant on everything being balanced and light. So that is why we've gone for the I-beam rods. Now, the I-beam apparently is about 80 grams less than the H-beam. A little bit more expensive, but as I say, it's imperative on this particular engine that we get the weight down, really. So that's why they do the I-beam. That's why they've done them a lightweight for this particular engine. Now, I said to you in the last video, on this type of engine, we tend to run a tighter clearance. And that is because it is an aluminium block. It is a narrower journal, and the oils you run in these are different to what you run in there. So these are, you know, obviously an old school engine, big old wide main and big end journal. So these we tend to run on the tighter side. So rule of thumb is the clearance that you run on the journals, say mains for example, you run about 1 thou per inch of diameter. So these are very, very slightly over 2 inch. So normally for the Cosworth, I run 2 to 2.5 thou, more on the 2.5 thou side. But on this, we tend to run slightly under maybe. So yeah, we've got a 2 inch. So we've got a 2 inch diameter on the mains. You can see here, you're wondering what that is. We've already plastic gauged this, so that is plastic gauge. Obviously, like I've said to you before, the routine is we measure the journals, we get the journals right, because you've got a tolerance on the journal, you've got a tolerance on the bearing thickness, and you've also got a tolerance in the mains housing. So you have to sort of work out all that, what you're going to run to get your end running clearance. Now, we've torqued the cradle down, the mains cradle, to 70 foot-pounds, 3 stages up to 70 foot-pounds with these ARP studs, and I think these are a 3/8. And you can see what we're left with on the plastic gauge. So if we just do a little measure of that plastic gauge, Paul has actually already done this, but if we, so you go on the thickness, so this is a gauge there, so you can see that it is less 1.5 thou on the thickness. So if you go up there to 2, you can see it is very slightly thicker than 2, but not so much as 1.5. So what that means is that is about 1.8 thou of running clearance, which is absolutely perfect on this engine. So we're going to get the crank cleaned. We're going to get that plastic gauge off there with a bit of brake cleaner, get all the bearings cleaned up, etc. And we're going to get this crank in and torqued up and ready to dummy build with the pistons and rods. Right guys, just a little break there from doing that Focus engine, thumbnail and title time. So over the weekend, and these days I try not to answer emails or messages over the weekend. It's family time, got to have a break, as suggested by many of you guys down in the comments. I should just turn the phone off, just don't do anything over the weekend or after hours. It's quite easy having your own business to get in the habit of just doing that. Oh, I'll just answer this one, I'll just answer that one, but no, don't do it. Anyway, guy messages me, sends me a video and a message. He picked a cylinder head up from us. We did the cylinder head and a few other bits, and we went through the cylinder head. It was a 16 valve, not going to say which one it is. But he sent us the video at the weekend, which I answered today. John's been on the phone to him actually, trying to sort of educate him a bit. He sent me a video. He said the valves were leaking. Well, now bear in mind, we've done the guides, we cut the seats, we cut the valves, refaced the head, obviously decoat it, so it's all refreshed, redone. Now, what some people do as a test to see valves leaking, we use a vacuum tester. So we put the vacuum test with the valves in on the port, and it sucks the air out, and if there's any leakage past the valves, it will indicate on the gauge. Obviously it loses vacuum if it's leaking. Or you can put paraffin in the top of the cylinder head and see if it leaks past into the ports. So this guy sends me a video, looks like he's put paraffin in the top of the bore, in the top of the combustion chambers. Apparently, John said that it doesn't leak like that, but he persists in putting an air line with a rag up the port and blowing air through. Now, my suggestion to him, and I'm trying to educate him as to why, but if you blow air up a port, all it's going to try and do is open the valve. And what's happening, he sent me a video of it, in blowing air up the port, and it's fizzing obviously through the paraffin that is sitting in top of the combustion chambers and giving the impression it's leaking. That isn't the way to test it, guys. As I say, you've either got to draw the air back through or put paraffin in the top there. But yeah, blowing the valves, all that's going to do is have the adverse effect and try and open the valves. The air's got to escape somewhere. So yeah, a little bit of a lesson there, guys. Don't do that. And if you've got any issues, just ring us up and ask for our advice. So we're boring our last bore now for the final liner in the Cosworth block. And if I just blow that, you can see there where that was our last cut. We've got to do the flange cut out now, but you can see where it's all been chipping away there, where it's sort of gone up to where that wire ring is. So that wire ring would have been sitting right there. So by the time we've done our top hat cut, that's going to take all that out, be absolutely cock on. Now, very annoyingly, with this today, I'm hoping I can get the three liners in there, and then I can set it up to do the long stud in. We've got the 6 long studs on their way, so I can get that done. And as soon as that other liner, the bespoke liner, turns up in hopefully less than 5 weeks, we can just pop that in, get the block faced, get it bored, and that block is all done then. So yeah, let's get that top hat flange cut out done, guys, and I'll get it set up for the long studs. Right, so we've cleaned the crank off now. All we did was just a bit of brake cleaner on a nice clean cloth, and all that plastic gauge is gone. You see that's in there, turns lovely. Same with the bearings. Make sure that the plastic gauge is off the bearings. Obviously there's only one half it's going to be on. We've just put a nice coating of oil on those bearings. Don't need to go over the top, and we're just going to put that cradle onto the block now. So put that on there, and what we do, we've got our nice greasy washers. Ooh. And nuts. These have all been greased up with the ARP proper grease. You do need to put that ARP grease on because it makes a big difference to the torque. So whatever torque ARP recommend, that will be with the grease and not with oil or anything else. I noticed that a couple of people did comment about our ARP torque settings and said, do you ever do them by stretch as opposed to torque? If we were to reuse, say, big end bolts, we would do it on stretch. Mains we always do on torque, even if they're reused, but the big ends, if they're brand new, we'll do it on torque. If they're second hand, we will do it on stretch, and obviously if they or we will do them on torque and then check the stretch just to make sure that the bolts are good. So you can see we've got one piston on a rod here. We haven't put the circlips in, we haven't put any oil on it or anything like that. One dry bearing, and we make sure we get it in the right direction. So these rods we locate with the stamp at the front, facing towards the front of the engine, and the piston has got an arrow, you see down there, that points towards the front of the engine. But we always make sure that that arrow is meant to be facing at the front by looking at the valve cutouts here. Obviously you've got the inlet valves to this side, and once the head's on, the inlet is at this side, so they are correct. So what we're going to do now is we put the crank with TDC number 1 right up the top, and then we just pop this thing down the hole. Obviously I've checked all the running clearances and they're all good. So as you can see, guys, we've measured this, and they give the spec about, see this is lower as opposed to higher, but they give about 1.5 mil you want for this outside of the piston being lower than the deck of the block. And that's exactly what it is, so that is perfect. No modifications needed. Right guys, so next stage is gapping the rings. So as you can see, we've got the top ring, we've got the oil control, we've got the scraper ring, and we've got the oil control ring, and an expander ring here. So if we go over to the JE paperwork, very important to read this paperwork. So you can see here we've got the chart here of recommended ring gaps. So we want to be going, we've got a turbocharged engine, so street moderate turbo. So we want to be sort of going for this. So over here we've got the all control ring, here we've got second ring, here we've got the top ring. So what it says is for this one, the bore size, which if we go over here, we've measured the bore, 88.5, so 3.484, so say 3.5 times 5 thou, so it's basically what they're saying is it's almost it's 5 thou per inch a bore-ish, okay? So if we do that, times 5 gives us 17.5 thou, so we're going to aim for 17, 18 thou of gap. Now what I've done is I've put a top ring in here, middle ring there, all control ring here. Measured the gaps, we've got 12 thou on this one, so clearly it's not enough. It wouldn't even be enough for the bottom recommended. So we've got to open this out about another 5 thou to 17, 18 thou. This one here is more than enough. This one is 20 thou gap, so the center rings we know are good. And this one here is, which is the all control ring, is about 8 thou. So we've got to open those up as well. So we'll do that with our old method, guys, of a nice fine file in the vise and just rubbing each side gently at the same time just to open that gap up. So we'll start the lengthy process of doing that, guys, and then get back to you once we've done it. So there we go. The Focus RS Mark III for our friend Paul is all done. You can see we've put the ARP stud and nuts in there, ready for him. He's going to be bringing the cylinder head over for us when he picks this up. As you can see, it's looking absolutely lovely with those new pistons. We've got the brace in the top here, the very expensive brace, mind. And yeah, looking absolutely snazzy. Well guys, thanks ever so much for watching today's video. Until Wednesdays, have a great evening and we'll see you then. Cheers.